Have you ever wondered if cutting your afterburner will make it easier to flare missiles off? Well, let's find out. Starting off with your average beginner missile is the AIM-9B. It's a very basic infrared missile with only 10 G to pull and is more attracted to the sun than it is actual jet aircraft. It's also a rear aspect missile, so it'll only lock jet aircraft from the back end, so more from the engine of an aircraft. A huge step up is the A9L. This missile you only get when you're in the higher tiers of aircraft and is a very effective missile. It also has a all aspect seeker, so it can be fired from any direction on an aircraft. Do note that it'll lock on from shorter ranges when it is a front aspect lock though. So it locks weaker from if the aircraft's flying towards you and stronger if the aircraft's flying away from you, as a heads up. Next up, and is also the best infrared missile in the American tech tree, is the AIM-9M. This missile has like all the same stats as an AIM-9L, but it now has IRCCM. And IRCCM is different when it comes to missiles, but the Americans use a form called suspended animation, which is where the seeker turns off when it detects a flare and then turns back on in like a couple moments later. Now, to show a little bit about what I mean about rear aspect only seekers, is they can't lock a jet from the front until like super close, but by then it'll miss because the missile can't pull enough G's to hit the aircraft. Now, moving on to a rear aspect lock. The missile locks the target with no problem, and at the BR the AIM-9B is at, most jets don't have flares, but for the ones that do, if the enemy is paying attention, like at all, if they flare once, the missile will more than likely come off of the jet. So, do be aware of that. Now, in this clip, my friend will have his afterburners on, so the missile should track a little better, but these are AIM-9Bs we're working with, so they're not going to track the best still, but it should be a little bit better. And as you can see, even when the afterburners are on, the missile still chases the first flare that he fires. Now moving on to the AIM-9L, these are all aspect seekers, so they have a much better detection on aircraft heat. Here is a demonstration on a front aspect lock on the AIM-9L.
Lock.
Now, firing the A9L from a rear aspect, the missile would have a much better time tracking the target. And also, my friend has afterburners on in this clip as a note.
Lock. Over G. Lock.
Now this next firing test is with no afterburners with the F-16. So this missile should come right off of him if you flash it a couple times. See, there was so much less heat, he didn't even have to move whilst flaring. Now this clip uses the AIM-9M with IRCCM. This makes the missile really hard to flare off, but can still miss. And at certain ranges, flares don't even bother the missile anymore.
Air brake on. Over G. Over G.
Now, this clip is just to show how much weaker front aspect locks can be when you are firing from the front and not the rear of an aircraft. I'm also using an AIM-9M for this demonstration as well.
Lock. Over G.
Also, if you were wondering how like Russian or other countries' IRCCM works, it works like this. Before you fire the missile, the seeker is big to help you lock the target, and then after firing, the missile seeker will shrink down to a smaller FOV. This is also called FOV gating or field of view gating. This is to kind of give like a physical example. So this is how like an R-73 would be before you fire. You know, the seeker is nice and big and all that, and then after you fire the missile, it'll shrink down to like this. It'll shrink nice and small to where it's just it trying to ignore flares the best it can. This is also the end of the video. If you guys have any suggestions or anything, just leave it down in the comment section below.